You're following the wrong God within, and it's costing you everything. You've done everything right. You followed the advice, checked every box, became everything they told you to be. And yet, when you're alone, when no one needs you to smile, when the noise fades, something inside you whispers, "This isn't it." You can't explain it. You're not falling apart. You're functioning, sometimes even laughing. But beneath it all, there's a quiet, persistent emptiness you can't shake off. It's not depression, not quite. It's not sadness, really. It's something subtler, like living in grayscale while everyone else seems to see in color. This is what no one talks about. That strange void that creeps in, even when you're fine. Even when you have a job, people around you, maybe even a dream you're chasing. And yet, deep down, you feel like a stranger to your own life. Maybe you've tried to fill it with productivity, with helping others, with books, courses, relationships, or goals. And maybe those things help for a while. Then the silence comes again. The ache, the feeling that you're playing a role, but not really living. You lie in bed and think, why do I feel like I'm waiting for something that never arrives? What's missing? Why don't I feel whole? And here's what makes it harder. From the outside, you look fine, maybe even successful. So people assume you're okay. They praise your strength, your progress, your growth. But you're not okay. Not really. Because there's a part of you that's been left behind, and it's starting to grieve. But no one sees that grief. Not even you. You just feel off, like something subtle and sacred is fading. And sometimes, late at night, you feel a different kind of sadness. Not because of what's happening, but because of what isn't happening. You're not broken, but something within you is deeply unmet. And here's the truth. There's a difference between being empty and being full of what isn't you. That's what this silent symptom is. Not a lack of effort, not laziness, not ingratitude, but a quiet rebellion from your soul. A protest against a life that looks right but feels wrong. That's why the books don't work anymore. Why the achievements feel flat. Why the compliments bounce off. Why even peace feels boring. Because you're not meant to feel numb. You're not meant to adapt to emptiness and call it maturity. You're not meant to master life by suppressing your aliveness. Still, you keep going, smiling, trying to make it work, trying to not be a burden, trying to stay grateful. But deep down, you're wondering, is this really what life is about? If you've asked that in silence, if you've felt that subtle ache no one can see, if you've doubted yourself for feeling off, even when nothing is wrong, then let me say something no one probably has. You're not alone. You're not crazy. This emptiness you feel might be the most honest thing about your life right now. Not because it's wrong, but because it's trying to show you what's been lost. The disconnection from the soul. There's a kind of emptiness that doesn't scream. It doesn't crash your life with a breakdown or demand attention with a panic attack. It's quieter than that, more civilized. Lets you go to work, take care of others, pay your bills, smile when needed. But deep down, something essential is missing. It's the kind of void that no achievement, no relationship, no vacation, no spiritual bypass can ever really touch. Because it's not about the outside. It's about the slow, invisible separation from your own soul. You see, we've been conditioned to believe that we're supposed to figure out life with logic, strategy, and constant productivity. We're taught to chase success, happiness, and purpose as if they're prizes we win for being good at pretending. Pretending to be fine. Pretending we know where we're going. Pretending we're not slowly losing ourselves. But here's what no one tells you. The soul doesn't shout, it whispers. And those whispers? They're not asking for more goals. They're asking for truth. The truth that maybe You've been living a life that looks right but feels wrong. That maybe the dreams you've been chasing were never really yours. That maybe the version of yourself you present to the world is a mask carefully shaped by survival, not by your essence. This is where the disconnection begins. Not from a single moment of trauma or crisis, but from the accumulation of tiny abandonments. Each time you ignored your intuition to please someone else. Each time you silenced your creativity because it didn't seem practical. Each time you felt something deeply but convinced yourself it wasn't valid. You became good at adapting. So good that you started to believe adaptation was your identity. But the soul doesn't adapt. It waits. It waits for the moment you slow down enough to hear it again. It waits for the crack in your performance. The moment of stillness where your loneliness becomes unbearable and you can no longer pretend. It waits for you to remember. Because what you're feeling, this aching void, isn't failure. It's feedback. It's the soul telling you, you're not broken, you're just too far from home. Home is not a place. It's a state of being, a return to who you were before the world told you who to be. A reconnection with your truth, even if it's inconvenient, even if it means shedding identities that once protected you. And I know, that can be terrifying. But what's more terrifying is living your whole life as a stranger to yourself. That's why the discomfort is rising now. Because your soul is tired of being silenced. Because the life built on avoidance no longer fits. The world may not understand this pain you carry. They may call you ungrateful, too sensitive, or dramatic. But what they don't know is that it takes immense courage to feel. To admit the life you built no longer reflects the truth of who you are. So if you're feeling lost, disconnected, or numb, it's not weakness. It's a signal. Your soul is knocking, not to destroy everything, but to reclaim something. And that something is you. The inner split, a war between your false self and your forgotten truth. You've tried changing your habits. You've tried changing your job, your location, even the people around you. But the void, it's still there. Why? Because the real conflict is not out there. It's in you. There is a hidden war inside, between the version of you that's always trying to be good enough for the world, and the version of you that was quietly buried in order to survive it. This is not about self-sabotage. It's about self-betrayal. And most people live their entire lives without realizing it. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you were acting in your own life? Like you're saying the right things, doing the right things, but something inside you is silently screaming, "This isn't me." That scream is real. And it's not random. It's the voice of a deeper you. A self that was once wild, intuitive, curious, and full of truth. Before it was silenced by shame, fear, or the need to fit in. In archetypal psychology, this is what James Hillman calls the conflict between the false God and the soul's calling. The false God is the voice in your head that says, "Be more successful. Don't be too emotional. Don't make people uncomfortable. Stay in control. Play it safe." That voice is not your enemy, but it's not your truth either. It's an internalized script, inherited from culture, family, school, even trauma. Here's the most painful part. The more you follow this false God, the more disconnected you become from your soul. You'll succeed and still feel empty. You'll be loved and still feel unseen. You'll be normal and still feel like you're not really alive. This is not because something is wrong with you. It's because something sacred inside you has been silenced. Carl Jung called this the battle between the persona, the mask you wear for society, and the self, the full, authentic totality of who you are. And when the mask becomes your identity, you lose the ability to hear your own soul. So what happens? You overthink. You feel numb. You chase goals you don't even want. You feel like an imposter in your own skin. And worst of all, you start believing that this is just life, that this is all there is. But what if it's not? What if the emptiness you feel isn't a flaw, but a map, a sacred signal from your soul that says, you're not broken, you're just following the wrong God within? This sentence changes everything, because it returns the power to you. You don't have to destroy your life. You don't have to become someone else. You just have to stop betraying the voice inside that you've been trained to ignore. The pain you feel? It's not punishment. It's the tension of living out of alignment with your truth. This is where healing begins, not in fixing yourself, but in reclaiming yourself. Not in adding more layers, but in peeling them away. The false self will tell you this is dangerous, reckless, too vulnerable. But the soul? The soul will whisper, at last, you're listening. And maybe, just maybe, that's why you're here. Because part of you is tired of playing a role, tired of pretending, tired of walking someone else's path. You're not here to fit in. You're here to wake up. And now, the question is, will you? The invitation to reconnection. There's a voice inside you that doesn't shout. It whispers. And maybe that's why you stopped hearing it. Because the world taught you to listen to noise, to chase the loudest goals, to follow the voices that promise certainty and recognition. But the soul never forces. It waits. It waits for silence, for collapse, for that sacred moment when everything outside loses meaning. And you have no choice but to look within. And maybe that's where you are right now. You've achieved, you've adapted, you've survived. And yet, there's a quiet ache that refuses to leave. A part of you that still feels unseen, even when you're surrounded. That emptiness you feel? It's not proof that you're broken. It's the sign that you've abandoned the compass within you. You stopped asking, what do I truly want? You stopped listening. What does my soul long for beyond survival? It's not your fault. When you were younger, you were probably praised for being strong, helpful, pleasing. You were taught that love comes when you perform, when you meet expectations, when you don't cause problems. So you built a version of yourself that made others proud, but made your inner self feel invisible. And now, that false self is tired. No amount of discipline, productivity hacks, or external motivation can fill a life that's disconnected from truth. Because what you're truly longing for is meaning. Not success that looks good on paper, but a life that feels real in your chest. So here's the invitation. Stop running. Stop fixing. Stop trying to prove you're enough. You already are. What if healing doesn't start with doing more, but with listening? What if your way back isn't forward, but inward? Right now, something deeper is calling you. A quieter voice, one that you've ignored because it doesn't fit the mold. But it's your voice. And the moment you give it space, everything shifts. The pressure softens. The shame dissolves. The path that once felt blocked begins to open. Not because the world changed, but because you returned. Returned to your center, to your essence, to the part of you that never needed to be fixed, only remembered. Let this be the turning point. Not toward a perfect life, but toward a true one. Because when you start living from your inner truth, even if it's messy, slow, uncertain, that's when you finally feel at home. Closing with relief and silent power. You're not broken. And the most important thing is, you never were. That feeling of emptiness, of disconnection, of not belonging in your own life, it wasn't a flaw. It was a message, a whisper from your soul saying, this is not the way. But the world taught you that if everything looks right from the outside, then you should feel right on the inside. That if you have goals, achievements, a functional life, then you have no right to feel lost. And so, you began to doubt yourself, to question your intuition, to silence your most authentic emotions. You learned how to function while dimming your light, to smile while something inside you screamed in silence, to keep going while your soul quietly stayed behind. But something has changed. Maybe you can't explain it yet, but you feel it. You can't keep ignoring that voice inside. You can't pretend everything's fine when there's an invisible weight crushing your chest. You can't keep living a life that makes you invisible to yourself. And as painful as that is, it's a blessing. Because it marks the beginning of your return. A return that's not about fixing everything overnight or having all the answers. It's about coming back to yourself, with honesty, with compassion, with a strength that doesn't shout but holds. Maybe, for the first time, you're no longer fighting yourself. Maybe, for the first time, you're realizing that you don't need permission to feel, to let go, to just be. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you were, before the world taught you to forget. And yes, the path back to yourself can feel lonely, because no one can walk it for you. Only you can go within. But that doesn't mean you're alone. There are thousands, millions of souls waking up to the same inner call. People who are tired of pretending, tired of pleasing, tired of chasing lives that aren't theirs. People who, like you, are learning how to return to themselves without apology. If you've made it this far, it's not a coincidence. Maybe this is the moment your soul has been waiting for. To say, enough, I'm ready to come home. So breathe. There's no rush, no punishment. Nothing broken that needs fixing. Only a truth waiting to be heard. Only a you that's been waiting to be lived. And always remember, the most powerful path isn't the one that takes you far. It's the one that brings you home. And that home has always been you.